Dragon Ballers, real quick before we get into today's video, just want to share something with you guys that I am very excited about. PPG is going to be hosting the Pro Support TCG weekend in Dallas, Texas, the weekend of November 6th. It's going to be a giant TCG convention weekend hosting all your favorite games, obviously Dragon Ball Super, Digimon, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and more. Tournaments for all those. I'm actually going to be there commentating the Dragon Ball Super side of things, the main event on Saturday, the side events on Sunday. I absolutely cannot wait. And if you guys missed out on Gen Con or heard me talk about how much fun that was, you're 110% going to want to be at the Pro Support TCG weekend. The other great thing too is it's just 2 weeks before Nationals, the biggest Dragon Ball Super tournament of the year, so you can get some invaluable practice there. But besides that, it's a convention. It's going to be so much fun, especially for those of you guys like me that just absolutely love trading card games. Definitely check it out. The link to sign up will be in the description. I really hope to see you guys there. Now let's get into the video. Yo, Dragon Ballers, welcome back to another video. Today I want to give you guys my top 5 rogue recommendations to try out in the current format. Once November rolls around, we're pretty much going to be in a brand new format with a new set coming out and a new ban list being dropped. So these are 5 decks that I think can do well now in the face of all your current meta decks. The Soul Strikers, the SS4 Vegetas, the Icaruses, the Cell Surges, all those types of things. I think these decks can do fairly well. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys want to help support the channel, be sure to check out the links in the description below. But today, guys, if you're looking for custom sleeves, play mats, any TCG accessories like that, check out the link in the description to yourplaymat.com. You will get 10% off your order using that. Their art sleeves are impossible to beat. I absolutely love that I don't have to double sleeve them because they are art sleeves that don't peel. That's my biggest thing about them. Again, 10% off in the description. Let's get into the video with our first pick. Android 16. This is one that I really liked out of Evolution Booster, and it's honestly pretty cool to say that it's really the only deck that's been doing something out of Evolution Booster. I think the leader is just generically good, even though you are pretty much pigeonholed into playing Android 16 and blue-green cards. I think it's still really solid. You have really good draw power with the leader pitching androids to draw cards. You get to basically charge all your different Android 16s without energy exhaust. And the backside lets you play in a really interesting way where you don't necessarily have to have a hand to play. And that could be a pretty good benefit against something like Cell Surge or even maybe like a blue deck playing Android 17 Turning the Tide. Basically, the dynamic against blue right now is game 1, you're going to be in a bit of trouble if the game goes long because they're probably going to play Android 17 Turning the Tide on you. And in game 1, any non-Hatchiyak deck basically doesn't have an answer to that. They don't have Jiren in the main board. But with Android 16, you can actually play with no hand. Not saying you're going to automatically beat Turning the Tide or Cell Surge, but you do have that alternate method of playing with Android 16 that a lot of other decks aren't capable of, which is really cool. And then obviously in game 2, you can side in your Deborahs for Cell Surge, you can side in your Jirens for Turning the Tide decks, stuff like that. But I really think that the Android 16 cards are all around just generally good. Like Android 16 Steadfast Comeback, Blocker Revenge, Arrival for 2. When he gets played, your opponent pitches a card. So the fact that he's a giant body that can attack twice or attack once and then block and then kill a battle card, like the card just offers a ton of value. So I really like Android 16. Again, very cool. I've always been interested in it. I think you can maybe even play Tricolor. I mean, Violent Rush Bojack is still a card. Who knows how much longer that card will remain unbanned. That's a really big card that people are speculating will be hit on the upcoming ban list. So try around with your Tricolor, mess around with blue-green. I think Android 16 is really good. Then we have Chilimo. This is one of the coolest decks that I saw in an IRL tournament when I went to the Manchester, Connecticut Regional just a few weekends ago. I think Chilimo is such a cool thing, mostly because of Kind Wish, at least for me. The deck has other really cool things going for it, but I think Kind Wish just being a board wipe that gets around barrier, puts everything to the bottom of your opponent's deck, and it pretty much can't be interacted with because it's an extra card. Really nothing stops it. So as long as you make it a turn 4, which in this format there's just about nothing killing you before turn 4 unless you come across like a Stray, Gogeta Xeno, or Starter Vegeta Bardock's crew, for example. But besides that, which is pretty unlikely, you're going to be getting a turn 4 pretty healthily, and you're going to resolve Kind Wish, getting rid of your opponent's board entirely. And then from there, you're going to start ripping your opponent's hand with Rebrands. You can play even maybe the Boo 5-drop from set 14. Like, because you can use Kind Wish for free, your other avenues of playmaking are so wide open. Now, you might want to do something where you can deal with an opponent's Unison, like particularly if you're against Soul Striker, you're going to want to play something that can deal with the Unison. That's why I recommended the Boo 5-drop from set 14, Unadulterated Destruction, because board wiping your opponent on 4 and then board wiping them again on 5 and making sure you get rid of their Unison is some pretty insane value. As far as myself working on like Chilimo builds, the one odd thing I've found is the fact that Boo wipes your own board. And it's not even the worst thing that he wipes your own board, but it's a lot more awkward that he also wipes your Unison. So maybe you go some sort of like non-Unison build, or maybe just like a Demigod Unison to make sure you can do certain things in the early game, like have access to Dormant, have access to Freeze a Charismatic Villain. That could be a thing, and by the late game, you don't really care if you lose your Demigod because he's pretty much done his job. That's just kind of some food for thought for you guys, but I really like Chilimo, particularly because a Kind Wish is just so insane. Then we have Green Gotenks. So Green Gotenks is another really solid green deck, and you guys will notice that green has actually stepped up several pegs since last format where it was looked at as the worst color. Again, Cell Surge pretty much carrying the color on its back, but I do think Chilimo and Gotenks are really solid rogue strategies for the current format. Gotenks has a lot going for it. You have the early Awaken, which can be a bit of a problem against blue-yellow, depending on who goes first, because of Zamasu the Eliminator. Basically, they can negate the play of your Unison and stall your Awaken, but even if you Awaken normally against Icarus, the game is so slow that that's not really too much of a problem. One really funny dynamic about Zamasu the Eliminator is that it actually does introduce more dice roll into the format. Like in the past, a lot of people have complained about the format and the game in general being very dice rolly. I don't really feel that way, especially in slower formats like this, but with Zamasu the Eliminator, it is a bit more dice rolly because decks like Gotenks, for example, if you win the dice roll, your Unison's absolutely clear to come down on turn 2, but if you lose the dice roll, you got to play a little bit scared of Zamasu the Eliminator. But anyways, besides that, I think Gotenks just has really powerful cards it can offer. So Gotenks Grim Reaper of Justice, for example, deflect, 25k dual attack, not much your opponent can do to stop that. You can't God-Sealing Trunks it, you can't Frost Deadly Poison it. You can catch your opponent off guard with like a Power of the Super Saiyan if they attack incorrectly, but as the Gotenks player, it's up to you to make sure you attack correctly. And most yellow decks aren't really playing Zamasu Super Combo, and most blue decks aren't really playing it either, so you're pretty much safe to attack battle cards first and then go in with your leader. That way you get the maximum value out of a card like Gotenks Grim Reaper of Justice. But regardless, if it gets removed from the board, you just get your fusion materials right back, and that can open you up to playing SS3 Gotenks all out assault. The main thing about this guy is that he's a deflect that gets rid of barrier. You guys may have seen some of the spoilers from Comic-Con for the green cards coming out. A lot of that stuff looks like it gets rid of barrier, so we know just how powerful barrier removal is. Obviously, like I mentioned before, Violent Rush Bojack is one of the most pivotal cards of the current format, and then SS3 Gotenks being able to get rid of Bojack without your opponent being able to do anything to stop it, besides maybe arrive another Bojack, which is probably unlikely, is a really strong thing the deck has going for it. Like if you're playing against an Icarus player and they've like exhausted all their Senzu Beans recklessly, or maybe you catch them tapped out and they're relying on Bojack, you play this guy to wipe their Bojack and they are in a ton of trouble. Like, people don't really realize that while Icarus is so defensive, if you cut them off from their energy or force them to tap out and then deal with Bojack, they're going to be in such a crippled position that you can probably push for game on that very turn, and that's one thing that Gotenks can do very well. So I definitely want you guys to try Gotenks. If you've always been a fan of the character, want to try the deck out, this is a pretty solid format to play Gotenks in a rogue capacity. Then we have Fuse Zamasu, set 10 Zamasu. This is a really cool deck. Like I mentioned before, the top dogs for blue are pretty much Soul Striker and SS4 Vegeta Ramp, but Zamasu has actually put up some pretty solid results pretty much at Gen Con, and there was also some results there for a PPG tournament more recently. But Zamasu is pretty cool because like some of the best blue-yellow cards right now are SS Rose Goku Black Apocalypse Schemer and Zamasu the Eliminator. And because of those card names, you're actually able to do pretty neat things where you can actually like fuse them into certain Zamasus and play like a Tragedy Overground package. Now, if you guys don't remember, this card does, it's actually like a one of tech in SS4 Vegeta ramp. But real quick, it's a 9 cost field card that, believe it or not, a lot of decks just play for 9, like Zamasu. This deck can also do that, but you can also play the Zamasu that cheat this card out. So permanent, this card can't be removed from your battle area by the skills of your opponent's battle cards. Permanent, when your opponent plays a battle card with energy cost of 4 or more, it's placing owner's energy in rest mode instead. And that is so relevant because of the slower format that we're in. Bigger boss monsters are really good, and even if they have deflect, they're still stopped by Tragedy Overground, which is a really insane interaction. When this card's activated, choose all your opponent's battle cards ignoring barrier, place them in the owner's energy in rest mode. So you play it, you board up your opponent, and they can't play any more bombs for the rest of the game. It's absolutely insane. So whether you want to ramp and cast this for 9 or fuse those Gokus and Zamasus into a fuse Zamasu to play this earlier, I think that's a pretty solid strategy. And then finally, guys, we have Cooler Mill. So Cooler Mill is a deck that I've always liked, and I think it's actually pretty solid in this format, again, because of the popularity of Icarus, but even because of Soul Striker and things like Zamasu and SS4 Vegeta ramp. Because a lot of these decks are committing battle cards to the board, like Violent Rush Bojacks, like Zamasus, which actually can be minus to death, unlike where they normally can't be removed by normal means. And you also have blue playing like the Galactic Buster Bojack stuff as another example. So Cooler being able to minus all those battle cards on the board and mill your opponent out is a pretty solid win condition. And Beerus Unceasing Rage makes Tricolor Cooler a really interesting thing to explore. So look at this, for example. You combo your Beerus super combo, untap a blue red, right? Maybe you have another red open, or maybe you use Sense Beam to get another energy open. You can arrival your Cooler Tyrannical Assault, minus 10k 2 battle cards ignoring barrier. Then you can combo a Sand Instincts or like a Bardock the Eliminator for your yellow combo, and then play Beerus Unceasing Rage, which when played, minus 10k's another 2 battle cards in rest mode and draws a card, so it replaces that card you invested to put this in play. So the overall thing is just really consistent, and you get a lot of return on your investment, and your leader will draw a card on top of that for minusing some battle cards. So it's just really solid. You're keeping up that hand advantage, putting a lot of battle cards onto the board, and milling your opponent out, putting your opponent under a lot of pressure if they play recklessly and just draw through their decks. So these are my recommendations to you guys. I want you to try them out. I want to know in the comments below what you think. What rogue decks are you messing around with in this format? Let me know. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.